Welcome, swimmers and swammers. I'm today's host, Garrett McCaffrey. Our guest today has been named to multiple USA Swimming international coaching staffs, and her team, the Aquajets, has earned 7 silver and 5 gold medals in USA Swimming's Club Excellence program. She's Kate Lundsten, and this is the Swim Swam Podcast. Kate, thank you so much for making the time today.
It's a blessing to be here.
So I was starting to tell you before we started recording that going into Winter Juniors down in Austin this year, I had a very short list, and you're at the top of my list of coaches I wanted to lock down to talk to on the podcast. And the way it turned out was not exactly how I planned. As I'm stepping down off of a step onto the slippery deck there at University of Texas, I almost cracked my head open. I caught it, and you were so kind to tell me good catch. And all of a sudden we were talking, and I was like, all right, this isn't the introduction I was thinking, but hi, I'm Garrett. Will you be on the Swim Swam podcast? So I'm so glad.
It was a good introduction. You really made a great entrance. I could see your athletic ability just from that fall. It was quite incredible. I wish everyone could have seen it. It was really good.
You were too kind, because I'm sure it was not something that people would be impressed with. Anyway. Let's talk about your athletic ability a little bit. I kind of wanted to start. I've got a lot of questions, want to get to a lot of stuff here today, but wanted to start with Kate the swimmer. How did you get into competitive swimming, I guess, is the first question.
Oh, that's a great question. I was raised on a lake. It was called Christmas Lake. I lived on a point, so there's water on all sides. And so my parents knew right away we had to figure out how to swim. So I literally was raised with a life jacket on the moment I could walk. And my neighborhood buddy pulled me out of the water several times with my life jacket on. But eventually I learned how to swim. My brother started competitive swimming, and then he got me into it when I was about 12. And then he quit, and then I kept doing it.
Why'd you keep doing it?
I don't know, because I had several coaches that said I probably shouldn't have swum. I should have done a different sport. I did not have a good feel for the water. Everything I got and accomplished in swimming was absolutely brute strength and just working my butt off. I really couldn't hold the water well at all. I wasn't that good.
But you were good. I mean, you went on to, Division III national championships, a bunch of records in college. And so I guess you kind of just answered this, but was it anything else other than just grit that got you the success you earned in swimming?
I think it was just grit. Really, it wasn't, to be really super successful, there is a bit of that talent plus hard work. But, there has to be the ability to hold the water. I just didn't have that. So it was really just grit. So yeah, anybody could be a swimmer. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Anybody can be a swimmer.
That is a powerful perspective as a coach. Yep. Looking back on your coaches at the time, what did they get right?
Oh, they were really good. I think they were ahead of their times in the way they coached. I didn't have many coaches. I had about 3, 4 maybe. But they were great at their technique even. And back then we did a lot more yards. We kind of put your head down and just go. But they were communicative to us. They were good coaches. So I think they got it right where I enjoyed swimming a whole lot. Every time I swam, I just enjoyed it. I really loved the sport. My parents tried to get me out. Even the coaches said, hey, you got a better sport than this. But I don't know. I just stayed in it.
Yeah, obviously they did instill a passion, because it's still with you today.
Yeah.
If you look back, and I'm just curious, as looking at the way things develop, and we'll talk about a lot of different angles of development here, but is there anything you look at and they made you do that just seems silly at this point? Things that they got wrong?
Well, I don't want to diss them on here, but anyway, I guess I I hardly ever go 10 500s with my swimmers anymore. That was something we did. It wasn't anything that unusual back then. You literally just put your face down and you go, right? And that's how we all did it. So we didn't think it was that weird. But the
That's fair.
attention span today is about, 10 seconds. So I don't do that kind of stuff with my swimmers anymore.
Yep. I think that's totally fair. I don't think coaches would look at that as a diss. That's just the way that the sport has developed.
Right.
At Hamlin, where you had all that success as a swimmer, you also majored in art. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What kind of art do you specialize in?
Well, that's really good. I specialized in art. Chuck, Bachelor, and there's a lot of coaches out there with art majors. And we've all come to the conclusion we're coaches because we were art majors. And there's just not a lot of jobs out there for art majors. And I specialized, at that time, I was in photography and illustration. Then I went into children's art and did woodworking, painting, that kind of stuff. I tried to make a living as an artist, and that failed big time. And so I started coaching, which was a great move for me.
How does art fit into your life these days? Are you still doing any kind of work in that area?
Very little. I do very little artwork, and I'll pick it up once in a while, but I don't do a lot of artwork. No.
Like you said, a lot of coaches come to the sport from being an art major. I think there's also something to be said of the art of coaching. How is coaching art?
Well, I do think, what is art? It could be acting, it could be drawing, it could be however you look at it. And I do think as coaches, we are on stage a lot with our kids, right? So we're trying to make it fun. We're trying to get them through it. We're trying to be motivators. So I guess there is an art in that of just showing up and being there for these kids every day.
I couldn't agree more. As a broadcast journalism major, which is a little more rare in coaching, I believe,
Right.
That was what I felt. I felt like I was in front of the camera for kids or
Right.
for athletes, for 2 to 4 hours a day. And that immediate feedback was something very rewarding. But I completely agree. It's almost like being performative on stage, making sure that you're picking your words in an engaging way. I was thinking more like how you write sets and stuff. Does it play into that side of it at all?
Oh gee, I was basically a cartoonist. So when I first started, I did a lot of cartoons on the board, the whiteboards, but is artistic view. I don't know if the kids would think my practices are very artistic at all, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest.
I think that's a fair answer. I was just trying to, I sometimes think of it, instead of following science, I'm kind of trying to piece together how I think it would, be presented best. Like sometimes I'm trying to make my sets so the pattern is there or, those type of things. Would you say that coaching then is more science than art?
I think it's a combination. I mean, I've always been on the, I guess not the science side, but I've started bringing that in where, doing a lot more heart rate stuff and all that kind of stuff the last 10 years. So I think it is a combination. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Can you break that down into percentages? How much is it art? How much is it science?
Oh boy. I wish I could say 50-50, but I don't know. Some days it's 50-50, some days it's 80-20, some days it's 100% art and that. I don't think I've ever been 100% science because I get distracted way too easy. I mean, really too easy. So I would be probably more on the arty side.
Same. I'm in the exact same boat where, I hear something a coach is doing that makes a lot of sense to me and I'll dive into that pretty deep.
I do too. That's exactly how I do.
Let's transition away from the art because, as you said, your swimmers probably wouldn't think of your sets as art all the time. How would your swimmers describe you as a coach, do you think?
Yeah, wow, you said the questions were easy, man. That's just not easy. I don't know. I mean, I think it's we have a good time. I mean, I'm hard. I mean, they know that I'm a hard coach, and no one believes that, but I do yell. I'm hopefully in a gentle way. They know I always love them. That is one thing. They always know I have the best for them. But if they're not doing it right, I had to have another coach settle me down yesterday. Leah, who's just an incredible woman. She's been with me for years and years. And she said, Kate, it's all okay. It's a Monday. New Year's just happened, because I was just like frustrated with the way they were training yesterday. And I do need that sometimes, because I get so wrapped into it, and I don't want to be so wrapped into it that I forget that kids are kids, and they had New Year's, and now I have them training today. So it's good to know. But I guess there is a demand side, but they know that in 2 seconds we're going to have some fun and laugh a lot. So hopefully that's what they say. I'm a really good whistler too. That's it. That's
That is a very underrated coaching skill. I've been trying,
so
and I'm really having trouble. I'm sticking all these fingers trying to
yeah,
figure it out. Hopefully, eventually, I can get there.
that's the best
Can we
thing I
talk just
got.
a little bit more about that? I think that's fascinating, and I definitely have those moments where I don't feel like an athlete is as engaged in what we're presenting as an opportunity as they should be. And especially an athlete who might, at a meet, act like it's really important, but then at practice consistently does not. And I, sometimes think of myself as more of a carrot coach than a stick coach. But sometimes I also feel like there needs to be some accountability done in a way that can reach them. And it sounds like, and obviously based on your results, you have that ability to redirect or to correct. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach that and how the kids react to that?
Well, I think it's example, if you're putting a setup on the whiteboard, or however you do it, or explain it to the kids. If you're saying, you're going to go 300 freestyle, and you're going to go 2-2-3 breath, 3 dolphin kicks, no breath off the turns. And then you're going to go into 475s pull and whatever, 350s, whatever, doesn't matter. You're expecting to see that. So yesterday, I didn't see the 3 dolphin kicks. I saw no dolphin kicks off the wall. I saw hardly streamline off the wall. So they start again, and I stop them. I think they were doing a 500, but I stop them and just, what are you doing? I expect this. You're doing this. And, I know some were crying in their goggles, whatever, but they got over it. It all worked out. And they did it right the next time.
That is one that really gets me, because, whether I do a lot of stroke count and kick count work,
yeah.
but I can always see the kick count. I can't count everybody's stroke,
right.
But I can always just stand at the wall and watch if they're kicking, and the number of them that sometimes miss that. I can completely relate. Relate. And it's an effective tactic, because the next time after they've already done 1 500, they don't want to do 3. So it is a very effective tactic.
It is.
I've also, just kind of been listening to some of the talks that you've done and conversations that you've had. And a theme that comes up often is that you try as a coach to ask questions to your athletes. And I completely, envy and respect that approach. I think it is, a way to get them engaged in the process, which they definitely want these days. Can you talk just a little bit more about how you use questions to coach your athletes?
Yeah, I think that is where coaching has changed so much. I mean, really, I've been coaching for some 20 some years, I'm sure. But, back in the day, you just told them what to do. And you would explain, you want your fingertips here, or whatever it was. But nowadays, I just don't coach like that anymore. And because maybe they know a lot more because of Google, or, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure, but I want them to be smart swimmers. And if you're telling them all the time what to do, and I coach older kids, so I'm not talking 9 and 10-year-olds, but if you're telling them what to do all the time, they don't, first of all, they don't take ownership for themselves. And so they go off to college and oftentimes quit. And second of all, they don't understand. They're just doing it because you told them to do it. So when you start asking them questions like, what did I ask a girl the other day? She was talking to me. We were talking about tempo in her backstroke. And I said, well, tell me, what about your tempo? And she was telling me like her stroke rate, what it is best at. And, we just had this conversation and I kept asking her questions until we came to the conclusion, and you can't do it all the time. I had time with her, but you can't do that. You have 5 seconds, most kids in between sets. But I do ask them a quick question until they can kind of come to that conclusion themselves. And sometimes they can't. And oftentimes I'll say, you need to figure it out. You need to figure out if you're faster on your side, dolphin kick, on your back, dolphin kick, or on your stomach. You have to figure that out yourself. I can't tell you. I can tell you what it looks like, but so I give them that job as well. So I ask them questions and I give them jobs to do.
I think it's a very powerful approach, but at some point there has to be teaching as well, right?
Right.
So how do you do that piece? And like you said, sometimes it feels like we only have 5 seconds in between sets to talk to the kids. And you're trying to make sure you take advantage. I know I am always trying to make sure we get the pool time in that we can. So it's not, an option to just sit and have a conversation before practice every day. So when it comes to teaching of technique, to, present an opportunity like, hey, some people are really good at kicking dolphin kick on their side, like you said. When do you get to teach in your practice or in your season?
So, we have an incredible staff, and we have coaches. I'm not the only coach on the pool deck. So I have a staff members that will look at this freestyle and pull them out and talk to the kids. But I think what I do generally, we'll just go to the dolphin kicks because, okay, we know how important dolphin kicks are in yards. And I have some kids that just are terrible at dolphin kicks. I do believe with flexibility, they can get better. I really believe I've seen a kid go from not a good dolphin kicker to a really good dolphin kicker because she's really worked on her flexibility. But I guess what we're always trying to do, and I always say to the general kids when we're there, okay, the goal on this, the focus on this set is keeping the momentum going. Off the wall, how can I keep that speed, which is, we know, the second fastest place you're going to be on that race. How can we keep that speed going as long and fast as we can? Well, you can't start off with a slow dolphin kick because it's going to slow you down. Or you can't, how are you going to push off the wall? How are you going to keep it up going through the breakout? And as a coach, we can look and say, you lost your momentum, right? We can see that. So they're breaking out really slowly or whatever. And so I guess those are the teaching times. So we're telling them, this is what we're looking for. Then we're watching to see if they actually can do it or not. And I think a lot of them can feel it.
Can we dive into that? Because I definitely have underwaters on my list, because
Right.
you may say that you have some bad dolphin kickers, but at national meets, it doesn't look like you have any bad dolphin kickers. And I think that's definitely something that I think coaches like myself look at your program and your success and the athletes that you've had. That's a huge key to a lot of the success.
Right.
Let's dive into what you just said about not having a big dolphin kick as your first kick, because some people are taught start big and then get smaller as you approach the surface. I know that was something that, is still a decade ago or more now that I was, told that kind of thing. And I've also, heard the opposite. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean when you say it can't be a big dolphin kick that slows you down?
I'm not even saying big dolphin kick. I'm saying the speed of the dolphin kick.
Got to be fast.
Yeah. So you're coming off, how fast you come off the wall, 5 miles an hour. Let's just say you're coming off 5 miles, which you're not, but you're coming off 5 miles an hour. If you're adding a dolphin kick that's like 1 mile an hour, you're going to just slow down, right? So it's that that push. How do I keep that? And then adding the dolphins, it's just like underwater breaststroke pullouts or pull downs, whatever you call them. Of how do you keep that going without stopping yourself, right? It's always about timing. It is about how you start it, when you start it. I mean, I remember Allison Schmidt, she would, Bob, right before felt she needed to start her dolphin kicks right off the push because I don't know if her push was, I don't know what it was, but for her, that really worked. So with my kids, I say, the good ones, you're going to push as hard as you can. You're going to keep gliding. Then you're going to add your dolphin kicks. And then we're struggling with the breakouts right now. And our dolphin kicks are good, but we really struggle with keeping that momentum going through the breakout. I have one boy that's really good at it, but the others struggle a little bit. They get caught.
Is it the transition from dolphin to flutter that gets them?
Yeah.
Have you played around at all with what Dressel does, taking the dolphin kicks through the surface?
Yeah, and I we've tried it, but they are so shallow on it. It's just like, oh no, they've totally lost it. But Natalie Coughlin started that, didn't she?
I think maybe you're right. I mean, she definitely had unbelievable underwaters
Yeah,
that
I think she
dominated
started the
NC2As
dolphin
for years.
Yeah, I think Dave, or I don't know if it was Terry or Dave, but someone started having her dolphin kick, or someone started it, and she really started at the end of her career. She was really good at that precise moment of bringing her dolphin and that momentum keep going through the breakout. But you know, the dolphin kick is tough. I mean, it is hard. You're using big muscles. You're burning your lungs, and you know, I'm like a backstroke, because I'm telling you, most of it's underwater. And if you don't train like that all the time, you're not going to do it underwater. You won't be able to. So
yeah, can we dive into that a little bit? Can you give us an example of how you integrate it into practice? Because it's one thing to just do underwaters and like say, all right, we're going to go 15 fast underwater or 25 fast underwater, whatever it is. But like you're saying, if you're not integrating it into your stroke and your speed and your race pace stuff, you're not going to use it in the race. How do you integrate the kicks into a set? I know you said earlier you wanted 3 kicks off the wall for a certain set. Is there always a kick count in sets, or is that something specific on certain sets?
So like you, Garrett, we do a lot of stroke count and kick count. To me, it's vital. You know, your stroke count, kick count are going to be different in your 100 than it is 200. And so when we're doing it, so I'll give you an example. And this wasn't from me. I got from Mizzou, which I tweaked it a little bit, but Mizzou started doing this. And I have a lot of kids that have gone to Mizzou and been very successful there because our programs kind of mesh together. But so like we're doing this on Thursday, they're going to go 175 at 200 race pace. Then they'll go 425s dolphin kick underwater as fast as they can right after the race pace. And then they'll go a 50 race pace at 200 race pace again. So 75, 425s underwater dolphin kick, and the 50 at 200 race pace. They're going to go through that 7 times. And then we'll do that for the 100 as well. So, but we always try to go race pace, and now you have to go underwater dolphin kick, because, you know, we know 2025's underwater is not that hard if that's your only set. But if you're going from a race pace into now 425s, that would be on 30, 25, 20, 15, and then into a race pace. It's really tough.
How do you build up to that? Because I think some kids say, oh my gosh, a 25 underwater, if it's something that they haven't done enough times, you know, especially at that point, a lot of them are coming up and taking a breath and then sometimes going back down. Sometimes I will add, you know, to the interval, but 30, 25, 20, that's a pretty tight interval still when you're doing that. I guess I'm just wondering how you got to that point. It's just something that's just integrated into the progression with your younger coaches too.
Well, you know, and I always say, take a breath. I never yell at them if they're taking a breath, because I don't want them. I said, I don't want blackout. I don't want anything like that. Take a breath. Right. Yeah. You know, if I would prefer them taking a breath after the 15 meters, but they do have to go back down after they take a breath. My great dolphin kickers, they don't take any breaths. They just don't do it. right? Because their dolphin kicks in 100 back could be 10, 13, 13, 13 for a girl, or 10, 12, 12, 12, right? So they have to train where they can't take a breath.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was kind of hitting on
Yeah.
too. Is, like sometimes you want to make sure that you're taking care of it, because it is such an important part of our sport.
Right,
It's
right.
something that you absolutely have to train, but then you see all the safety videos, and with good reason, you got to be careful in that way. So that's why I was just curious how you build into it. And I think that's the perfect answer, is that
Right.
there is no shame in taking a breath. You need
Right.
to do what you can. But like you said, like if you're really going to be good at it, the quickest way and the
Right.
is to just
Don't
hold
do it.
that streamline and get there.
That's exactly.
The last question on these underwaters, unless there's more after your answer, how do you teach to race them? You just said, your good kickers will go 10, 12, 12, 12. Sometimes
Right.
I think when kids initially start to use their dolphin kicks, they're like 15 off the start, and then 10, and then 5, and then none in 100. I try to tell them, how many could you take off your last wall? Take that many the whole way. What is your strategy for integrating the dolphin kicks into a race?
Well, every Saturday they get up and they get suited every Saturday. So they'll get up and it's 400. They'll either do a 75s, and we do a pre-meet warm-up, which will be about 1,500 to 2,000. And then they'll do either 75s or 50s. And we write it on our board. They're for fly, they need kick count and stroke count. For backstroke, they need kick count and freestyle kick count, breaststroke, stroke count. And they know everyone, and they do it week after week after week till they're sick of it. But I'll tell you, it's the first year we've done it, and it's helped so much because they don't have to think when they swim. They already know what to do, right? So I'm sure you probably do similar stuff like that.
Well, I'm going to try that now, because that is fantastic. I really do like that. And I think you're right. Like the more we can get them to just be on autopilot in the race,
Right.
the better
Right.
success we're going to have. I noticed you didn't say stroke count for backstroke. Do you just focus on tempo, no stroke count for backstroke?
Backstroke, I've always been a tempo one. So, I think tempo is really important. I have had kids where have gone way too much and they're just slipping. So I've slowed their tempo down a little bit, but it's for sure 1.1 to 1.2 and 100 backstroke. The boy, my one swimmer, he's probably a 1.3, which he needs to get faster, because when you're going into college, your backstroke tempo is pretty good, pretty fast. I mean, look at Reagan.
Yeah.
Her tempo is, and she can hold that for a whole 200. I mean, but so yes, we do more tempo trainers with backstroke.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Luke, right? Luke.
Yep, that's
I
Luke
mean,
Wolf.
he got second at junior, so I think he'll be okay in college. But I
Yeah,
completely, I mean, and I just kind of looked at those results because I didn't want to in any way, pigeonhole you as just a backstroke coach, because you've had success in all the strokes, great IMers. Obviously, Rachel kind of leads that as a backstroke and a gold medalist in the stroke. But if you look through even results from this year's juniors, it's just a ton of success in backstroke. And I'm curious if that has anything to do with your success as a backstroker, because that was your specialty, or if that's just a coincidence.
Well, I don't know. I really don't. It's a question I don't have the answer for. I mean, we've had kids on national junior team and national team in 2 strokes is all. Breaststroke and backstroke, nothing else. Never had a freestyler on the national team or a junior national junior team. Never had an IMer. It's been all breaststrokers or backstrokers. So to me, that looks like, then we have a deficiency in fly, IM, and free. But
I don't think there's much deficiency in your program. One of the other things, and this is just through deck talk, that I've heard that you do very well with the Aquajets, is Dryland. Is that something that you did as a swimmer at all?
No. Did Dryland?
How did you get introduced to Dryland, and when did it become such a priority for you?
It is Lisa Whitmer, who was with us a long time ago. She has since left Aquajets because her kids are, graduated from college. So she brought in a Dryland program with Leah, who's my right and left hand person on the pool deck. Brought in a Dryland program, and it was incredibly successful. When they left, Leah became a swim coach on the pool deck. We're rebuilding it again. So is it great? It's getting better. So yeah, after COVID, it kind of shut down.
Yeah, the time opportunities and
Yep.
even just, the space to be able to do that really changed through COVID. But at this point, how many days a week are you doing Dryland?
Well, our kids will go 3 days a week. Yeah, they'll go 3 days a week. And our Dryland is right across the hall. We are in an old factory, so we've got a massive Dryland space, which helps so much. It really does.
Would you mind sharing like your weekly progression? Usually, for example, for our 3 days of Dryland, we go, it's legs both days, but it's push exercises one day, pull exercises one day, and then our third day is just yoga. So it's a little bit of everything after Saturday practice. Would you mind sharing kind of what that weekly cycle for Dryland looks like for you?
That would be so great if I could share it, but guess what? My Dryland coaches do their Dryland. So because of the big kids, a lot of them go to private people that Rachel Bootsma went to. So it's the same guy. So I send them to him. And so he knows, he gets in contact with me of what they do. Our Dryland program, we're building it for this next group that's coming up. But I have not a clue what, the one thing, the way I coach or being the head coach, if I put them in charge of Dryland, they are in charge of Dryland, unless I'm seeing something. If I see something, I talk to them right away. But if I'm not, they're in charge of it. We'll go for the go. If they're in charge of a junior group, I let them totally be in charge of it, unless a parent talks to me or I see something again, and I let them know right away. So they really are their own entity, yet we're the power of the team, because I've hired them for a reason, because I trust them. And so I let them be creative. That's artistic coming out, right? Because they're not following what I do. We have a theme a week, and because our values are HAPIE, humility, accountability, perseverance, integrity, and empathy. And then we have a swim theme a week. So this week it's about kicking. So the whole team, if you're 6 years old up to 20 years old, you're going to be on the same thing, but our workouts are all very different. And our coaches do an incredible job in their own creative way. So all the kids, when they go through our program, they have different coaches, and we're not doing the same thing.
It's fantastic management, and I want to kind of dive in and dissect HAPIE next. But my last Dryland question then, or can I ask you two? You do it before or after practice?
After, for sure. Our 11, 12, 13-year-olds do it before, just because of time. But yeah, for the seniors, it's always after.
And then my last question, does it start at 11? Is that when Dryland is introduced through the progression?
9 and 10.
9 and 10. What are the 9 and 10-year-olds doing for Dryland?
Oh, just having a great time. It's really about athleticism, just walking, jumping, playing, music, that kind of stuff. He does a great job with the young people. We have 2 different Dryland coaches.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to culture a little bit.
Okay.
And I guess at the foundation of it, one of the things that's in your bio, and I think it's probably something that plays a role in how you're able to build culture throughout the team, is that you're the board chair. So does that mean that you kind of are your own boss in that way? And how does that kind of play into, your ability to control the culture of the team?
I don't think I'm much of a control freak, for sure. And I'm a voting member on the board. And, they put the fancy title there, but it really means nothing. I've got a great board. It's great because we get to make sure we have the right people, and people that understand the vision of Aquajets and want to increase and build it, not for their kids' sake, but for the community's sake. So I think that's a really important thing. A board kills coaches. When you have a bad one, when you have a great one, it just can inspire. So my board is incredible, a group of people, and they're basically business people. I've always had a board of business people because it is a business, right? Also, I have never wanted to get incentives if my swimmers do well. I think it's a terrible thing that a board would do to a coach. And I think it's a terrible thing for a coach. My board asked if I wanted it, and I said no, because it gets into muddy waters. And I just think those incentives become your incentives and not what the kids, I understand we're underpaid. I feel I'm paid well, but we're underpaid. And so I just don't like incentives like that. I think it's hard on the kids because ultimately the kids do feel it. If you think, you get more money if they go to nationals or not. So other than that, the coaches are kind of their own entity. I get to hire and fire coaches, and the board can hire or fire me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I think you just touched on something pretty important. It's just at the root of our job, it's not about our success. It's about other people's success. So I think that's a really good piece of advice for, I think, especially coaches who are trying to create a long-term vision and a long-term culture for their team. I heard you say to Chris Plum on the Off Deck podcast that you wanted your team to be like a high school team. And I was just curious what that means exactly.
High school team, there's nothing like a high school team in our minds. You can never get it, but they always have a bigger purpose, right? They're doing it for their school. And we have power over the team because I do want it to be, that these are going to be some of their best friends. I mean, some of my past generations who are married, have kids, they're still their best friends are they're Aquajet buddies. That is my goal, right? That's what I'm looking for, that these are long-term relationships they have with their teammates. Are we always successful? No, but that's when I say I want it like a high school team in that sense of a way. In no other sense of the way do I want it like a high school team at all, but with just being together as a group, working together, knowing a community is better than an individual. That's the most important.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's the part of high school swimming that makes it redeemable is that, peer recognition, doing it for your school, being able to get that, recognition as being great at something from the people that you go to school at that just think of you as swimming and they don't really understand it. So there's definitely, like you're saying, a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I really like your vision with HAPIE: humility, accountability, perseverance, integrity, and empathy. And I want to dive into two of those. How do you build humility and confidence at the same time?
Well, I think, isn't humility it's not like, oh, I'm not that good, blah, blah. That's not humility. It's just, I think it's just, humility is when a swimmer goes up to an official and say, thank you so much for doing this for free, right? That's humility to me. Thank you for DQing me, but you're volunteering to do this. That's to me is a humility. That's what I want to see in our swimmers, right? That's the most important thing to me. And confidence is that, which kids have very low confidence nowadays, but to know that they can do it, that if they could just see through our eyes where we think they could be, oh my goodness, just to give them a vision of what we see in them, man, they'd be confident anyway.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I also think, and this was just in my own head, that you really put a good example in front of them every day because, with your results, you have every right to be confident, but at the same time, you're very humble. I mean, at the very beginning, talking about, your how your kids would describe you, you didn't want to really talk about that. So you have this really good ability to balance those two things. So I think that's a good thing too. My other question with HAPIE is about empathy, because I think it's something that's so important. And I think the pandemic showed it more than anything. There were so many different things that came through the pandemic that kind of, screamed for a need for more empathy in this world. And as coaches, I mean, I like to think of us as, catalysts to ripple effects. And if we want more empathetic people in the world, we have a chance to influence them, even if it's just 20 to 30 kids at a time, but that really can create a ripple effect. How do you try to build empathy within your athletes?
I mean, that is I'm not naturally empathetic. I really am not naturally empathetic, but actually one of my coaches came up to me, Megan Hawker came up to me and she said, I think we need to add E after COVID. During COVID, we added the E, the empathy. And she was so right of what, guess what kids go through or what anybody goes through to understand there's always another side of the story, to understand that they're acting or reacting because of something that's probably happened, right? And I think that empathy is so needed in our world today. Oh my goodness. And like you said, if we can just influence 20 to 30, how wonderful that would be. So it is a big thing to be empathetic, to understand, and I have one coach that's absolutely the most empathetic person I've ever met my whole life. And it's hard to be empathetic because you feel so deeply, right? And it is. I mean, when they weep, she weeps. When they laugh, she's going to laugh, right? But I think that's what we need.
Awesome answer. I guess let's start with how you talk about your staff quite a bit. How are you consistently communicating with that staff? Because I know that you said, and I think that's the perfect answer for managing, is that you're giving them their own sandbox to be creative. Because I think that's what we all want as coaches, our own thing that we can kind of do the way we want to, the way we envision. And a great manager hires great people and lets them do their job, doesn't micromanage them. But at the same time, there still has to be a sense of community, a sense of togetherness. How do you communicate, AKA manage your coaches?
Well, again, we are unique because we all coach in the same place. So I get to see them every day, right? They're all on the pool deck. So we have an 8-lane pool, 6 feet past. We have a 5-lane pool. Go through a door. We have a 4-lane pool. So we're all there all the time. And we also have a Zoom meeting every Monday. And we go through an agenda, and that was all started because one of the coaches said, you do not communicate with us. So I thought, oh, you're right. So I started because a coach said, you need to start communicating. And so, we're on the pool deck. To me, that was enough communication, but we put out a newsletter for coaches. We put out a newsletter for parents. And so we go through what we need to talk about and all those sorts of things. So, and if that's the thing, if there's anything that's needed, hopefully I think they feel free to call me, right? And talk to me on the pool deck and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know how, I'm not a really good manager, to be honest. I mean, we just try to have fun and enjoy each other. We do enjoy each other as a coaching staff. That does help so much. I mean, a lot of these coaches I've coached. So you can imagine, nobody can see, but I am 63. So, but yeah, I coached a lot of these coaches.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the way that you manage people. I think that kind of leadership, it doesn't have to be, the micromanaging, and the fact that you're humble and growth minded enough to say, okay, yeah, you're right. We do need to communicate more and make those changes is awesome. When you say the newsletter, sorry, I'm asking for myself as much as anyone, because I think communication with a team is tricky. How often are you doing the newsletter, and is that your responsibility?
Oh no, if you ask me to write, I'm an art major. Hello. We don't use words, right? So Aaliyah, my right and left-hand person, she is incredible. She's a journalist major. So she's really good at putting it down. So every week they get it, every Tuesday, coaches and parents get she calls it an e-newsletter, and it will just go meet deadlines. But for coaches, who's coaching at this meet, what's the session, I do that stuff, but give her that information. She puts it all on an email and it's sent to all the coaches.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a Leah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The last big topic that I really have is, it's a question it's a little bit tricky, but I'm just gonna get straightforward with it and ask,
Okay.
how has being a female impacted your coaching career?
I don't think that's tricky.
Well, I just, as a white male, I don't, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't have any perspective on it. And I'm very, curious from your perspective, how that's impacted. And I'm curious, like you say that you sometimes are mean or sometimes yell or anything. Is that, a product of it? I guess I'm just curious how it's impacted.
I think I really have never, I don't really think about it, to be honest with you. Sue Chen and I have talked about this prior. I don't think and go, I mean, like when I go on trips for USA Swimming, 90% of the time I'm the only female coach, but that means I get my own room. I mean, like, how great is that? You know what I'm saying? But I don't really, I haven't felt it because I am an introvert. And so I'm very happy if I'm not, hanging with the coaching staff. I don't care. I'll go take a hike. I'm really happy taking a hike, right? I just took a hike today. I'm gonna take another one. So I'm kind of easygoing in that way. I'm kind of a happy person. I wake up pretty happy, to be honest. So being a female coach, I mean, I'm sure it's different, but I don't know anything different than being a female coach.
Have you noticed any change throughout your career, like seeing more and more female coaches on deck, maybe?
Maybe a few more head coaches, but Garrett, this is a tough job to have a family. I'm single.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing this, and it would be a really tough job. Weekends and traveling and everything else. It's tough to have a family and to be a coach. So, yeah. I'm not saying it's the best career in the whole world. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything, but it's not, you're gone a lot.
Yeah, I completely can relate. I love the job. I also, love my family, and it's
Right.
like there's no perfect balance. There's only
Wow.
guilt.
Right.
One way or another, you're kind of coming up short on one side or another with most of the decisions that you make. So I think that's very astute, and
yeah,
I think there's stuff like that for anybody, not just people with families. And I know you said that you like to go for a hike, and I also read in your bio that you've, tried all sorts of different sports. I guess I'm curious, and you have your art as well. What kind of things do you do to take care of Kate? What kind of things do you do for self-care?
Oh, I take I have a puppy. That's self-care right there. And so I do a lot of walking, hiking outside because I live by a park, which is miles and miles, acres and acres of she's free and deer and, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, hiking right there across my street. So I do that, and I really do like playing golf. I play golf a lot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nature and golf. I think those are great things that, coaches who are struggling with that balance can really kind of take away and say, all right, if Kate has time for those things, I can make time too. And I think that's an important piece of this. So Kate, I really appreciate this. I've learned so much. And I think a lot of the coaches who listen to this will as well. Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you so much for caring when I almost slipped and cracked my head.
You did a great job. I'm serious. Very athletic.
And best of luck going into the rest of this season.
You too. Thanks, Garrett.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.